May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. As someone who loves this country with every fiber of my being, I feel very honored and privileged to address you today. When I think of Liberia's birth as a nation, I often picture fists of all shapes and sizes raised in the air like this. Because our Declaration of Independence on July 26, 1847 was a revolutionary act of defiance. Back then, when blackness was synonymous with bondage, we Liberians dared to be free. Inspired by our Haitian sisters and brothers who had led the first successful slave revolt in history, we dared to reclaim Black personhood. Decades later, when our beloved continent was being carved up in the European scramble for Africa, swallowed whole by colonialism, we dared to be sovereign. In fact, our very existence as Africa's first Black republic inspired a race united. Lest we forget, our Declaration of Defiance happened nearly a century before independence movements began in earnest across this very continent. So, Liberia's Independence Day should be called In Defiance Day. Because Liberia's Independence Day should be called In Defiance Day. Because 177 years ago, our foremothers and fathers defied the odds. They attempted to prove that Black self-rule was not only possible, but also undeniable. They embraced Black internationalism long before this form of solidarity became an act of resistance. Our amalgam of different identities and cultures, West African, West Indian, Caribbean, Central African, and North American, was a radical affirmation of Africa meeting its diasporas. This exceptional legacy is our destiny. Yet, when we talk about ourselves today, in the narrative that we pass down from one generation to another, we tend to forget the magnitude of 1847. We forget that this glorious land of liberty was founded on abolitionist principles. We forget that dignity once defined us. Somehow, somewhere, some way, we lost touch with our common humanity. We created citizenship tiers based on ethnicity, class, gender, religion, and race. We mortgaged our resources to the highest bidder. We placed profits before people and planet. We silenced and suppressed dissent. We mistook autocracy for democracy. We failed to preserve and protect the cultural, artistic, and scholarly traditions that fill our hearts, enliven our souls, and sharpen our minds. And in the aftermath, we fought a brutal, protracted war that left of structural violence. Now, understandably, for many, July 26th symbolizes not defiance, but defeat. Not rupture and regeneration, but regression and retreat. Not inclusion, but exclusion. Not cooperation, but contestation. From 1847 onward, our negotiations over land ownership, political participation, identity, and belonging yielded both productive and destructive outcomes. Our nearly 200-year history as a nation exposed both collaborative and combative elements of who we are. Despite adopting a unification and integration policy 1 century after independence, we never actually united against a common existential threat until the Ebola outbreak of 2014 to 2016. For the first time, in that moment, instead of attacking each other, we stepped into our collective purpose and showed that in union strong, success is sure. We cannot fail. We proved that what started out as a 19th century experiment in Black self-determination had grown into something larger than we could ever have imagined. In this, our 177th year, I urge us to reimagine what it means to be one nation, indivisible. Sweet this country could be if we only rebuilt it for all of us to enjoy. We must believe that there is sufficient space to accommodate our differences and our shared experiences, that there are enough resources to supply our basic needs and cultivate our God-given talents. And so, we must narrow wide gaps between the poor and the prosperous, between the powerless and the powerful, between women and men, girls and boys, young and old, every 26th should be a moment of reflection and reckoning. Have we dared to be defiant in the previous year? Have we treated each other with civility and not cruelty? Have we upheld high standards of accountability, and that includes respecting time? Have we reduced inequality and redistributed wealth to enable everyone to survive, not just merely survive? Have we reduced, I'm going to repeat that again, have we reduced inequality and redistributed wealth to enable everyone to thrive, not merely survive? Have we developed functioning systems that will outlive us? Have we taken full responsibility for our socioeconomic transformation? My challenge to us on this Defiant Day is to build back better. My challenge to us on this Defiant Day is to build back differently. Now, I have traveled the length and breadth of Liberia's 15 counties and our 16th county of the diaspora. And one thing always rings true. Each and every one of us wants to live a life of dignity. Now, our methods of achieving self-respect and self-worth have not always been compatible, fair, or just. Yet we cannot build a new Liberia for all Liberians this year's 2016 until we all possess a basic level of well-being. Dignity must define us. This should be our creed, dignity must define us. Yearn for dignity. Those who are already here yearn for dignity. Liberians at home and abroad currently yearn for dignity. Dignity must define us. I propose a radical agenda for achieving this very lofty goal. First, we must reconceptualize and redefine what it means to be a Liberian. What does it mean to be a citizen in this post-war moment? Second, we must tackle the twin development challenges of structural violence and unfreedoms. How do we enable all Liberians to realize their fullest potential? And third, we must prioritize nation building as much as we prioritize state building. How do we build relationships between individuals and institutions of government to serve the collective good? I have plenty of ideas, a little time. So please give me small chance out. Reconceptualizing and redefining Liberian citizenship. In 2021, I published a book that investigates how Liberian citizenship has changed across space and time, and what implications this has for our development outcomes. I discovered that in the aftermath of any kind of upheaval or disorder, identities, practices, and relations between people fundamentally transform. From our founding as a nation state, to the indigenous war of resistance, to the political rumblings of the 1970s, to the vile assassinations in 1980 and 1990 of two headed states, which culminated in warfare, Liberian identity, practices, and interpersonal relations have fundamentally changed. Understanding why this change has occurred and how we cope with it now is the beginning of reimagining Liberia anew. So I use the unique backstories of the Liberians I interviewed at home and abroad, in 5 cities, 5 countries, 3 continents, to develop a framework for reconceptualizing and redefining what it means to be Liberian. I call it the Liberian citizenship triad. Shaped like a triangle, this triad has 3 points that move from the individual to how the individual interacts with her, his, government, and society. Point 1 on the triad defines Liberian citizenship as passive and identity-based. You are Liberian if you can claim birthplace and or bloodline ties to this country. This passive, identity-based form of citizenship is about claiming rights, regardless of your age, your gender, your ethnicity, your class, your sexual orientation, your ability, etc., etc., etc. Do you speak Liberian English and or a Liberian language? Do you identify with at least one of our counties as part of your lineage? Point 2 on the Liberian citizenship triad defines Liberian citizenship as active and practice-based. You are Liberian if you consistently, let me repeat that, you are Liberian if you consistently contribute to the country's socio-economic transformation in big ways as well as small ways. Practice-based form of citizenship is about fulfilling responsibilities, something that we often forget. Fulfilling responsibilities. Do you obey our laws, regardless of your stature? And I'm speaking here specifically here to some of you lawmakers. Do you pay your taxes? Are you actively involved for healthy interaction with other Liberians and with your government. Now, healthy interactions are defined as interactions that are neither abusive nor exploitative. This interactive, relationship-based form of citizenship is about building bonds. Do you hold yourself, your fellow citizen, and your government accountable? Do you offer constructive criticism when necessary and appropriate in ways that are not self-serving? These are the hallmarks of building a new Liberia for all Liberians. So, we fulfill responsibility and we cultivate and maintain wholesome relationships with one another. Now, we can implement this Liberian Citizenship Triad by incorporating formal lessons about citizenship into our national curriculum at all levels, by implementing a national youth service scheme to send graduating high school seniors who opt out of university to the county for on-the-job training. And by requiring anyone who assumes public office, whether appointed or elected, to undergo mandatory civics training. A prerequisite for national certification should be asset separation and at least 10 hours of civic education. Appointed officials should complete training within 2 weeks of confirmation. Dignity must define us. And reduce deprivation. Yet structural violence and unfreedom, which involve institutions and structures that fuel inequality and injustice, inhibit individuals from meeting their basic needs or actualizing their fullest capabilities. Though less visible than physical violence, structural violence is systemic, enduring, and ultimately more dangerous. Indeed, the true test of a nation is its willingness to transform the structural conditions that render so many of its citizens hopeless and helpless. A reimagined Liberia intentionally seeks to reduce the unfreedom of poverty and the inequity of structural violence. Because the contrast between our haves and our have-nots is entirely too stark in this country. For example, revolution against corruption. We must lead a values-based revolution against corruption. Now, my two anti-corruption children were written for this reason. That is, to equip children with the verbal tools to question the confusing evidence Liberia has focused almost exclusively on state building at the expense of nation building. Yet one cannot succeed without the other. Whereas state building concerns strengthening government institutions, such as policies, laws, courts, and legislatures, nation building is about improving the relationships that govern our lives. While nation building is people-centric and internally driven, requiring national agency, ownership, and resources, state building is institution-centric and often externally supported with international resources. Whereas state building focuses on building physical infrastructure, which is very important, so our roads, our bridges, our ports, our electricity. Nation building focuses on building human infrastructure. That is, the psychosocial, emotional, mental, and communal well-being of citizens. State building lifts Liberia by improving the government's ability to provide privileges and protections. Nation building lifts Liberia by enabling citizens to demand representation, rights, and resources while also fulfilling responsibilities. Now, 20 years in the making, our recent progress on establishing a war and economic crime reform is a welcome convergence of nation building and state building. Because the arc of a reimagined Liberia bends toward justice. Because the arc of a reimagined Liberia bends toward justice. In our bid to achieve positive peace, we cannot afford to double this process. We must be the chief sponsor and architect of this course, including providing the lion's share of financing for it. We must institute a transparent and merit-based process of selecting who shapes the court's mandate. And we must hold accountable those who bear the greatest responsibility for economic and war crimes without fear or favor, including foreign financiers and external state actors. So far, we have started on very shaky ground. First, although Executive Order number 131, establishing the Office of the War and Economic Crimes Court, was celebrated as long overdue, it still has a short lifespan of 12 months. Time is of the essence, but we are moving at a snail's pace. Second, the Executive Director of this office was elected under dubious circumstances. With apparently no civil society vetting or endorsement. This is unacceptable. President White House, I urge you to withdraw this nomination and not allow college tricking to derail one of the most important appointments of your time in office. others. For example, most of Liberia's 16 ethno-linguistic groups are not indigenous. They actually migrated in several ways from the 12th century onwards. By the time free and formerly enslaved blacks arrived on the coast of pre-settler Liberia in the mid-19th century, 250 years of migration have preceded them. So, our shared historical narrative must be that we are all immigrants. None of us belong to this country more than the other. Dignity must define us. Let me hear it again. Dignity must define us. Don't worry, I'm wrapping up. In our efforts to achieve state building, we must build a national consensus around how we perceive and perform public service. While some people enter government to engage in post-war profiteering, others are committed to transformational public sector productivity. Not everyone who joins government to steal. While some remain political entrepreneurs, others become transformational policymakers. This duality exists in governments across the world. We have to do a better job of not only scouting their competence, but also gauging who will put public interest before personal gain. This is what the Liberian elected. This is what the Liberian electors communicated when we rejected most incumbents in the House, the Senate, and the presidency last year. We said that we deserve better. And contrary to global hysteria about the violence that was experienced, we delivered this overwhelming message through the ballot box rather than through the barrel of a gun. Our young post-war democracy defied the odds in a sub-region that had been wrapped by political and military crisis. But there is still essential state-building work to be done. For example, a recent study found that the cost of Liberia is too high. So much so that wealthy and/or politically connected men tend to dominate the electoral arena. This means that people who should be in elected office, like women and poor people with integrity, rarely have the resources to run. In a reimagined Liberia, campaign finance would be regulated to curb the misuse of state resources and to police the clandestine private donations that come in. The members of our national legislature. Members of our national legislature. Some of you have already started campaigning for 2029. But I urge you to stop. Stop jockeying for power and grandstanding on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. Do the work of the Liberian people. They will decide whether you are worthy of re-election. In the meantime, go to your district and your county and engage in quarterly legislative dialogues so that you can report to the people you represent and hear directly from them. moth. But you did not listen to them. You did not listen to the naysayers, and for that, I am both humble and grateful. The Liberian people elected you to rescue you. 6 months in, expectations are high and morale low. But all is not lost because true change takes time. Though you inherited a laundry list of priorities to tackle, I urge you to focus on a handful of tangible goals in the next 6 years and work on achieving results. Forget about political niceties and partisanship, and institute swift reform that will cement your legacy as a respected statesman. Do you want to be remembered for condoning lawlessness or respecting the rule of law? In regards to the former, you have made some mistakes along the way. From the tenure positions debacle to the appointment of questionable characters in key positions of trust, you know who they are. To the controversy of what I call yellow machine gate. I urge you to course correct before you lose the confidence of the Liberian people. Assemble a diverse and nationally representative team of competent and committed Liberians with integrity. Devise mutually agreeable, time-bound deliverables for them to achieve and hold them accountable. Demand that all appointees roll up their sleeves and get to work or move out of the way of progress. Having said that, the arrest agenda appears to be more of a multi-sectoral development wish list than a broad-based vision for our future. I propose using the phrase dignity must define us as the unifying anchor for this administration's development plan. The process of managing change and delivering public goods must be Liberian-led, Liberian-financed, and Liberian-managed. I urge you to run the executive branch like a well-oiled machine. It should be. President White schedule quarterly presidential town hall discussions on the state broadcaster so that citizens can converse with you in real time. Mandate your ministers and heads of state-owned enterprises to do the same. The Liberian people, elected and executive, they presume would be accessible and accountable. Please, please, please do not disappoint them. Dignity must define us. Can I hear it again? Dignity must define us. I would like to end my oration with a special message to Liberians at home and abroad. To women and youth in particular, I see you. The twin challenges of sexism and ageism have left some of you feeling disillusioned and angry. I see that you're struggling, that some of you have lost faith in a system that rewards harming people rather than hurting them. I see that you have lost faith in a system that rewards harming people rather than helping them. utopia. I remain convinced, however, that in my lifetime, our country of many firsts will reassume its rightful place as a beacon of hope for this continent. Because we imagine Liberia is liberating Liberia. I invite you to help me reimagine Liberia anew, because we are the ones we have been waiting for. Happy 177th Independence Day, Liberia. Thank you, President.
Citation by the President to Dr. Orator Pele, a award-winning Liberian academic, activist, and author, assistant professor at the London School of Economics and Political Science. You were born on April 12, 1982 in Liberia, Liberia, to the union of Mr. Abraham Robert Pele and Mistress Ethel Nije Johnson Pele. You completed a Bachelor of Arts degrees in African Studies and English Literature at Harvard University and a Master of Science in African Studies at the University of Oxford. In continuation of your academic sojourn, you completed a doctorate in development studies at Solace University of London as a Lord Ibrahim Foundation PhD scholar. As an award-winning Liberian academic, activist, and author with more than 20 years of combined personal and professional experiences across Africa, Europe, and North America. You have worked across a broad range of fields supporting universities, government, media institutions, multilateral, regional, non-governmental, and community-based organizations. You have held several prestigious academic positions, including fellowships and lectureships at some of the world's leading universities. You have published in several scholarly journals, made presentations at universities across the globe, and engaged increasingly with policymakers and practitioners through consulting and invited talks. Giving your firm belief that a better world is imperative, you have been recognized with several distinctions, including as a 2020 Grassroots Alternative Movement Outstanding Public Service Award winner, a 2010 Archbishop Tutu Leadership Fellow at the African Leadership Institute, a 2003 Amnesty International Patrick Stewart Human Rights Scholar, and the 2001 Civil Rights Summer Fellow of the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, Harvard University Law School. Your advocacy is deeply rooted in your commitment to addressing inequality, empowering marginalized community, and your love for country. Now, therefore, in consideration of the accomplishment as an award-winning Liberian academic advocate author, and the inspiration of the next generation and the proud daughter of Liberia, I, Joseph Duma Barker Sr., President of the Republic of Liberia, by virtue of the authority in me invested, as Grand Master of the Orders of Distinction of the Republic of Liberia, do hereby admit you Dr. Raptor Yuri into the Order of the Star of Africa and conferring upon you the grade of Grand Man. Where this institutional will fly into the please accept my congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you. You may have a seat. Distinction on the Honorable Jeremiah Brown.